Shirish Limaya. We welcome you on behalf of WLB.
Thank you, Monica. Dr. Sudhir, welcome wishes, sir, for each one of us individually from WLB. The knowledge and wisdom that you have imparted to your students have been of a great help in the field of photography, which I should really tell you. The kind of encouragement, the guidance that have given so far to many of the birders in India has immensely helped many of them to excel in their bird photography. You know, he has taken enough time and any time to even motivate others, to help others, and support has been greatly contributed by him to everyone's success, including me. I'm sure the fans and followers like me would agree it wholeheartedly, sir. I want to make this moment to thank you for being a skillful mentor to all of us and for your support, time, and dedication. Welcome you again, sir.
Thank you so much.
You can start your webinar, sir.
So, should I share my presentation?
Yes, definitely.
Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Voice is okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I will try to finish by say 7:40, 7:45 so that we get some time for question and answer. You can stop me
Sure.
whenever you want. Don't worry about my flow. You can stop me, ask questions, no issues.
You won't be stopping your flow, sir, because
Yeah.
wherever if it's necessary, you can
Yeah,
skip your
absolutely. Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. So this picture, actually, what image you are seeing is the artist impression. I have clubbed Milky Way and Tucan. So first of all, before I start, a big clap to Vasanti and all the ladybugs for doing a great job. And I'm very happy that something is happening in this area. So welcome all participants. Thanks for the opportunity given by the WLP and your core team and all the participants. I can see Reena and Akshada. They have joined. They are friends from Instagram.
Thank you for
Okay.
this invite, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So
Reena. Thank you.
I will start my journey. I will give you 2 or 3 minutes brief on my journey. Momita and somebody asked, said, can I share my journey? How it started. So what happened was in 2011, during Diwali time, I had a heart attack. And actually, I was attending a classical program early morning. Pune is famous for that. Diwali party is what they call. So I was there, and during that program, I got a heart attack. I could not recognize because there was no
This
pains.
meeting is being recorded.
So there was no pains, no sweating, nothing. Only thing there was some uneasiness. So I sat there throughout the day, came home. Then actually I pushed like that. I just showed up to my physician. He said nothing wrong. You must be having some acidity. So he gave me some tablet. The biggest mistake I did was I took a painkiller that day, and I was feeling great. Then I drove down. After 3 days, I drove down to Mumbai, came back, and while coming back, I realized that my energy is gone because actually I walk minimum 5 to 8 kilometers a day. I regularly do my workouts. So losing my energy was something very surprising. So I thought I will show it to my company doctors. So I went to them and told them that this is what has happened. They said, you are full, sleep down here. So they asked me to sleep on the stretcher. They immediately called the ambulance and took me to the hospital. They said it was a heart attack. It was a actually event which you missed. So they did a stenting on me. I was back to office. Again, after 6 months, there was some issue. And that gave me another, they said it could be another, some problem with my stenting done earlier. So they have put one more stent within my earlier stent. So it's one of the very rare cases. So I have two stents, stent within a stent. And then I was not allowed to go out of home. So what to do? I was burning from my window. So if you visit my flat, what I have done is I have cut out all the windows and created a sliding doors so that I can open the windows and do the photography. So my camera, my binoculars, everything is lying just near the window. So if I see bird, I will start shooting. So when I started shooting, I was not knowing beyond crows and sparrows and mynas and whatnot. So I used to shoot photographs and share it with my friends. Then they used to tell me, this is this bird, this is trippi and whatnot. So then I bought a book, Inkscape book, and started reading it. And what I did was I used to mug up at least 3 pages every day. So like that, I have mugged up the whole book. Now I can know, I know each and every bird, which species, which category and all that. So that started helping me out in the field. And then I started photographing. In 2015 November, Sudhir Shivram came to Pune and he conducted a workshop. So during that workshop, I started to learn the technical details about the camera and whatnot. Then I did a first trip to Kochi. Then from Kochi, I directly went to Tanzania. So my first trip was Sudhir Shivram with Tanzania. Then I did some trips with him to Goa, Masai Mara and whatnot. So that was the starting point for me. And then I said, what will drive me to go every day and do some bird photography? Because I was supposed to superannuate from Tata's in 2015 July. So I said I should start something doing. And then I took up a challenge, as you rightly said, on 1st January 2016. I decided that I will take up a challenge for 1 year, and every day I will post one image, 99.99% from the wildlife. And that was my starting point. And I completed the year without the break. Then my friend said, why you want to discontinue? Start again. So I started season 2nd, season 3rd, season 4th. So I completed 5 seasons and this is the 6th season going on. So this 22nd June, I will be completing 2000 non-stop posts. So that will be another world record. And 20th June was my 1500 post record. Last Asia Book of Records was till the 31st December 2020. Now I will be completing 2000 posts on this 22nd June. So this is what my journey and how I started and what kind of places I visited, I will tell you. My speed is okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the places I visited so far is so many countries by now. First 3-4 countries because of my official work and simultaneously do some landscapes and whatnot. So monuments and landscape. That time I was not so much driven by the bird photography. So Nepal was my sort of a favorite place, but I did some 10-12 treks over there, but it was a trekking plus mountaineering. Bhutan, Tanzania, Kenya, and Costa Rica were specifically for the bird photography. So I went to Tanzania, Kenya, basically wildlife photography plus bird photography. Bhutan is totally for bird photography, and Costa Rica, as all of you know, for the bird photography. Then, meanwhile, I went to Germany, Australia, Switzerland. So it was a sort of a family outing, family trip. But without missing, I did bird photography over there also. Somebody's mic is on.
Revati, please unmute. Revati, please unmute. Your voice is disturbed.
You can also do a mute. Okay, I will go. So Germany, Austria, Switzerland, I did something around 50-60 birds for each country. If you know the name of the person, you can unmute that person.
Ma'am, it's Piyusha.
Thank you. Done. So, all put together, everybody knows that the world has more than 10,000 birds, and India alone has some 1,300 birds, 1,342 to be precise. So, I have completed around 900 plus birds in India and 280 birds from the other countries. So, 1180 is the count right now. My bucket list is still big. Colombia was planned this year, but is postponed. So Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, Peru, you name it, and I want to go there. So what kind of equipment I use? Basically, I am a Canon lover, so I use Canon bodies. So I started my photography with 600D and 300 f4 with 1.4 converter. And then I switched to 6D, which is a full frame. 70 Mark II is a crop sensor, but basically designed for wildlife action. I have a GoPro equivalent, a wire action camera. I have 100-400 lens, 300 f4, and other small lenses. Normally, what I do is I don't invest my money into prime lenses. I hire it out, I rent it out whenever I'm going out. And mostly my two favorite lenses are Sigma 500 f4 and Canon 300 f 2.8. And whenever I'm taking Canon 300 2.8, I carry 2x also. I have my own 1.4, and of course I also suggest everybody that you should use always tripods. I have two tripods. Penro is little bit heavy one, and the Vanguard is a travel tripod, but it takes 8 kg kind of load, so it takes good lens and good camera. So these are my equipments what I use. I will just talk two or three slides of technical knowledge, then we will shift. Is that okay?
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So all of us we know about it. So the aperture stands from f2.8 to whatever f22, whatever it is. So we always say that it is a larger aperture or wide aperture when we talk about the f number is low. When the f number goes up, the aperture becomes smaller and narrow. So what it means is that when you are at f2.8, the more and more light will come, and when you are f22 or something like that, f16, the light will start going down. So amount of light reaching to the sensor will change the moment you start from left to right. Okay. If you look at the depth of the field when you are at f2.8, that is the lowest f number, the depth of field will be shallow. And when you go to f22, the depth of will be larger, bigger than what we normally talk about. What does it mean to you is the background starts getting blurry when you are at lowest f number. So when you want a background as a, everybody says I have a cream background, I have a light green background. You are almost losing the details of the background. So you are at lowest f number. When you start getting more and more background, that means you are moving from f8 onwards, f22. So my favorite f number is 7.1 and f8. I normally shoot at f7.1, f8, f9, f10 and f11. So we'll go into those kind of details. Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
Perfect.
Perfectly
the
well.
next slide will be little more important. If you look at this example, the dog, the girl and the tree, when you are at lowest f number, that is f2.8, you can see that the girl is in the focus, but the tree is out of focus and the dog is out of focus. So you can see the blue patch where the depth of field talks about. So depth of field never starts with the subject, it starts before the subject, it ends after the subject. But when you are going f10, f11, f12, f16 kind of thing, you start covering right from dog to the tree, everything comes into the focus. So you have a choice. The moment I go larger the f number, my speed will start dropping it because the light coming to the sensor to the camera body is less. But it is your choice how you go about it. I will show you few examples afterwards. Why F8? You must have seen now that F8 is at center, correct? Which F number is missing over here, which we normally use?
7.1.
7.1 and F6.3. Okay, so most of the lenses which have came to the market in last 4 or 5 years time, they are all designed at F6.3, including the Sony's latest lens, correct? So what they say that F8 and be there. So what you have to do is you have to find out the sweet spot of your lens. So you take one subject and start taking images at various same settings, same length, focal length, and start taking images, and you will come to know that my lens, suppose you are using Tamron 150 or whatever, Sigma, you will find that this is the sweet spot of my lens. Here the picture becomes sharper and sharper, and still my background is creamy. So that's why they say F8 is a general purpose aperture and it never fails. This is what Richard has said. He is a photo magazine editor and he has written books. So they say that if you set F8, then your job is done. So F8 allows sufficient depth of field and clarity with clear exposure in most kind of daylight conditions. And of course, there is a hyperfocal, and that we will not spend time. But this is what one should remember when we are talking about the photography, especially wildlife and bird photography. There are two simple techniques which I think all of you must start using. I learned it from a Canon guy, Canon master. We have a tendency to close one eye, correct? When you put our eye, you close one eye. So don't do that. Open both your eyes and see through the eyepiece. So what happens is that you can, if your right eye is focused, then you can see everything happening with the left eye. So you get a clear field picture of what is happening. Otherwise, what happens is that bird flies and goes to some other location and you don't know, where it has gone, kahan gaya. So we start searching. So this helps you. This is the technique which is not written in any book. Second thing is, don't push yourself inside the eyepiece. Many people have that habit. They go almost push their eye to the eyepiece. So you start actually not seeing the things happening beyond your camera. So push yourself little back, maybe 1 inch or so, and you after practice you will see that actually everything is so clear. There was no need to go inside the eyepiece. So this is the two simple techniques which I use normally. So we know where the movement is happening, and whenever I am on the field, I will never take out my eye from the eyepiece. It is continuously watching the field what is happening. Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
So this is the one photograph which is a handheld taken with 6D 100-400 lens. You can see that it is only focused on the eye, and of course this must be F8, and you can see that even though it is handheld, 1/80 is the only speed. So still the image will be clear, and you can still see the background. It is not that background. It's still good background and not much clutter in the background. So this is a good example of why the F8 is being used. And whenever you are photographing, try to use the single point which is moving. Nowadays, because of the mirrorless coming, you will not have the problem. But still, it is to keep whatever is possible, keep whatever is the capacity of your body, keep all the points active so that even the subject moves, the camera still remains glued to your subject. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now I will tell you two more things which normally we don't read or we don't. We know that 1/3 ratio and whatnot, correct? How to crop a image, how to keep it good. But there are two things which are normally not discussed. So we will talk about it. One is the Fibonacci spiral. Fibonacci was a mathematician. He has done a very good job of mathematical calculations, how to place a object into your frame. And there is another thing which is derived from this same ratio called Golden ratio, which talks about 1 is to 1.618. So height or width, whatever is that, if you keep that is this ratio, the subject will be always hit with the viewers. If you look at the Fibonacci spiral, this spiral looks like this. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
So what has happened? If you look at the spiral, the beak and the eye, they are just at the base of the spiral, correct? So the whole bird has fitted into the spiral, and whoever sees this photo, they will start liking it, correct? Now again you see the summer tanager, which is a rosy pink color. It is also with the same spiral, correct? Now if you ask me personally, this frame, which is not in my mind, I have designed it differently, which I have posted it today on my Facebook page. That was right frame. Now this is basically based on this spiral. I purposely am doing some study on Instagram for last 1 week. Last 4 days I am doing the same. I am using Instagram size 1080 pixels by 1350 pixels, and I'm using this spiral, Fibonacci spiral. So this image for no reason has given me something around 2000 likes. So I was really surprised. So if you try, it is very difficult to frame in this manner whenever you are on the field. But whenever you are cropping, whenever you are framing, keep this thing in the mind. And the golden ratio is simple. It's again based on the same spiral. So it is known as there is a golden triangle also, which is isosceles triangle, both the sides equal and same ratio. And you can see that this golden rectangle has the same scale 1.61821, and within that rectangles there are another few rectangles with the same ratio. So if you see, the spiral is fitting in the same golden rectangle, and you will find that if you place a subject into this, people will start liking it. Mona Lisa's painting is exactly fitting into the same ratio and the same spiral. So these are the two additional things which you can remember, that Fibonacci spiral and golden ratio. So normally you don't find in any training, so I thought I will share this. Now let's talk about the various F numbers what I have used for showcasing. So if you see here, it starts with F4. So this is done with a 600 F4 lens, but rest are actually F5.6, all those things are with 100 400. Again, the ODKF is with Sigma 500 F4. But if you see this all photographs, what you will find, sorry, you will find that there is no great disturbance is coming into the backgrounds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you find any great difference? If you see F5.6 versus F13 and F14, you will see that lot of details are coming from the background, but still it is workable. And I'm happy to tell you that these images, Shikra images, are not processed. They are as it is, just cropped and kept over here. So it really works if you start going beyond F7.1, and F8 is my, of course, my favorite area. So it's very interesting. So I suggest all of you to do whenever there is any cooperative subject. Let it be sparrow, let it be crow, whatever it is. Keep all the settings same. Start changing the F number and see what the result is coming for you. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
interesting.
So This is self-study and self-learning. So nobody will come and tell you to do that. So best way to learn ourselves and start improving. So that whenever you're on the field, you can immediately do that. So I will give some 2 or 3 stories from whatever I have seen and whatever I have done. Almost all rare species. So most of you know the Great Indian Buzzard. This same image I had shared some time back on Instagram. For this one bird, I had traveled to Nalia, which is almost near to border, Pakistan border, 80 kilometers before. And these birds, I traveled from Pune to Ahmedabad, Ahmedabad to LRK, LRK to JRK for these birds only. And when we went into this area where these birds are seen, we came to know that this is a military area and there was a check post and they were not allowing us. So they said, what is this? You came all the way from Pune to see these birds. I said, yes, sir. These are the only birds, 100 odd birds left in India, and very rarely you can see it. So they show me your. So I showed some photographs from Facebook. I showed my camera lenses. Then they were very happy. Those Jawans allowed us to go inside. So we went inside. We had taken a local guide, and for we were damn lucky. For both 2 days we were there, and we could see this pair all the time. So this was done almost in 2015, 20 feet or 30 feet, maximum I think 20 feet distance. And at that time I was using 6D and Tamron 150-600. So those who say that third party lenses don't work well, no, they really work well. So this was very interesting. This is again another interesting story. These are known as a forest owlet. You might have heard of it. These birds were declared as extinct in India. And after 174 years, somebody saw it again. And these birds are seen in very few areas. Now it is seen in Nasik in Maharashtra, Melghat, which is very far away from my place, near Akot, then Tansa, Mumbai. So these are the 3-4 places where you can see again not more than 200 birds left in the wild. So I traveled on a Ganpati Visarjan day, that is the last day of Ganesh festival from Pune. I traveled 18 hours non-stop, reached to this place. It rained heavily. Last 80 kilometers there was no support of any kind of network, so no map was working. So we were talking to the Bills, the tribals over there, and finally we went to there. There is one small government rest house. We reached there. We actually started 9 a.m. in the morning. We reached next day morning over there. When we reached there, the local guide was available for us. He said, sir, you are too late. The birds were there, they just mated and they went back. So there is a less chance that today we will see them. We said, no, no, yeah, we traveled from Pune all the way to see these birds. And I knew that this is a very rare opportunity to see them. So there was another local guide who knows these birds well, and he's the only person who can make a call to them by mouth. Uh, till that time, there was no recorded call available on the databases. So we sent a vehicle to that man's place, brought him over there. Then he was very reluctant. So we said, don't worry, we will take care of your lunch. So he came all the way. We gave him 500 rupees and he went inside the field. And you will not believe, we were walking on the dry leaves, very unknown terrain. And he told us there could be scorpions and snakes below the dry leaves. And we were walking on that area without looking down. And he went inside, gave a call, and we were stunned to see that within 2 minutes, these two owlets came out. And they sat on a tree 30 feet high. He said, just don't worry, they will start coming down. So within 3 calls, the birds came down and we shot. I was shooting like mad. My guide was said, sir, what are you doing? It's like machine gun. I said, you don't know. I am going to fill up my 32 GB card with these birds because it's very rare to see them again. So it was very wonderful journey. And again, after 1 o'clock on the same day, it rained like mad. So we surrendered our all plans and started back to Pune. So it's a very great memory for me. This is again a Barbary falcon known as a red-napped shine, which is a very rare bird. People die to see this bird, and every year people will travel to LRK Gujarat to see this bird if it is come. Last year it visited, 3 years it was not visiting at all. So normally my last safaris, my last trip, last visit to field is always lucky. So on LRK we were supposed to leave on the day, and our guide said, "Sir, there is a great surprise for you. There is a surprise waiting for you on that stone." We were not able to see what he is talking about because it was something like very small, and we were few kilometers away. So he drove like mad. Within 10 minutes, we reached that spot, and to our astonishment, this red-napped shine was sitting over there. And this fellow was so cool. He was there for 20 minutes. So no need to tell you that I finished my 32 GB, 64 GB both cards on the same bird, because it's again takes lifetime to see these birds again. So very interesting bird. And this all of you know, these are the Ward Strogan. To see these birds, I have traveled to Bhutan. We were dying. So first day was actually a washout. We saw them but could not take good images. Next day we were traveling and suddenly our bus driver shouted, "Sir, Trovan, Trovan." So we were surprised because we were on the highway. So he stopped the bus and we ran to this spot, set up our tripods, and not only one, two, there were 6 Trogons playing around. So on the left you are seeing the male, and on the right it is a female. And we had a field day for 1 hour. We shot like mad, and we went inside the jungle earlier day, but this they decided to show on a highway. So next day we could see them on a highway. So it was a great fun to see them. So is this okay?
Yes.
I think I'm on time. So
Yes, sir.
whenever you are on the field, look for unique frames. So when you leave home and you are going for particular species, particular area, you decide in your mind that what I am going to see, what I am going to shoot. So there are few kind of a guidelines. So study the place before you visit. So wherever I go, I will study like mad. At least 1 or 2 months, I will go to YouTube, I will go to internet, I will go to Instagram, I will go to Facebook, Flickr, I will search all the images. I will look what kind of terrain is there. And it's not that I will wait for the visit. So I will buy the books beforehand. So suppose I'm going to Bhutan, I will buy the book of Bird of Bhutan. So you see the YouTube clips, you see the internet, you read the books, uh, look at the Facebook, Instagram, Flickr, whatever is possible. Then you will come to know that what kind of terrain I am going to see, what kind of habitats I am going to see. So basically, if you know the weather, you know the habitat, you are much ready, and in your mind you have already created some frames that I know that particular vulture sits on a wooden log when it wants to dry its feather. So you are in your mind you have already created the image. So before the vulture is going to sit on that wooden log, you have already created your frame. You have already moved your focusing point. You are just waiting for that guy to sit on the perch wherever you want. So you plan your shots in advance. Sometimes it feels a little difficult, but if you keep that in mind, you know that what you want. For example, when I left for Masai Mara, I always wanted that Malaika. She's not there now. Malaika is the name of uh, I think Vasanti must be knowing. Cheetah. She died last floods. So I had my shot decided in my I wanted her on a mount looking at the prey, and I got that shot. So before you leave, start planning your shots, and as soon as you are on the field, take test shots. You can see the test shot here. This was the hummingbird where you visits on that flower. So hummingbird photographing was little bit difficult. Then the moment you are on the field, earlier day what happens is in the night we forget to reset what we are going to do. So next day on the field, we carry the same setting. So as soon as you are there on the field, take a test shot, adjust your setting, and as I said in the bottom, I always keep two bodies ready. So 70 Mark II with prime lens, 6D with my 100-400, and I know what to do beforehand. For example, here it is this. So I wanted this king vulture, very beautiful vulture. These are unedited images, raw images as it is. So there was a very slippery, muddy patch where we were supposed to walk, and it was not a small distance. We walked almost 1.5 kilometers inside the where this hideaway is created. There are two heights next to each other. One is above the ground, and the second is below the ground. So we know what kind of shots we will take. So this one, if you see the left, it is at 100 mm, and second one is at 500 mm. Actually, with 1.6 crop factor, it is at 800 mm. So my place of sitting in the height is adjusted. Both the cameras kept nearby me. Everything is thought beforehand, and I knew that this vulture is going to come and sit on this wooden log branch, and I want to shoot it. So this is what pre-visualized and executed on the field. This is also again a pre-visualization. We knew that these vultures, they do the dance on this branch, and they try to shake the water drops from their wings. So this was again a visualized, kept the focus on its eye all the time. The moment it started moving, we started shooting like mad. So I still believe in shooting like cut, so that you get some good shots. Of course, we wait for particular shot. This was we were waiting. So pre-visualization is very important when you go on the field. This is a white-necked Jacobin. So what happens to these guys is that they are moving so fast. If you know the hummingbirds, their wing bits, the wing flapping varies between 70 per second to 200 per second. So if you really want to freeze them, you need 2000 plus 1 upon 2000, 1 upon 4000 kind of speed. Again, focusing on them is tough because they are hovering up, down, sideways. So what, after 3 hours on our first day, I realized that I have to focus on my flower. So the leftmost point of the body, whether it's the center or the top, is focused on the flower, and the rest points are made active. So that's why you can see that flower is very sharp, and automatically the hummingbird also came very sharp. So not to mention that it is again at f8, and the speed must be very less, but I think ISO 1250 and speed was 1 upon 2000. This is again a pre-visualized shot because we saw the bird behavior, and they were, this is a small climber kind of branch, and they, for them the bananas are kept downwards. So they came on this branch and moved down to take the banana. So I know that they will do this kind of sort of a acrobats, and we will be able to get the shot again. But this is at f9, very low speed, 1 upon 160, again ISO 1250. So this is again a pre-visualized shot. This actually, it was my dream to take toucans and arcaris in the rain. People said we don't want rains on the field. I said no, I want rains on the field so that I get them on the range. So this is again handheld with 100-400. So what we did was we actually increase the f number so that the speed will be low. That's shutter speed will be low so that we get the raindrops and also the bird, because these birds are very cooperative. They don't move so fast. Very huge birds. Actually, this was our first hummingbird we saw in Costa Rica. The moment we started the journey to Costa Rica, this was the first hummingbird, very tiny bird. It is known as a volcano hummingbird. This is a male, and this guy was dancing around all the perches. And we took some shots because It was our first hummingbird. So I took it on a dry perch, but there was a purchase available nearby. So I kept focusing on that and just waited so that I thought at least one or two times it will come on this perch, and suddenly sat on this perch and spread its tail and wings. So I got this shot, and it has a very beautiful necklace kind of thing um, on the neck. This is all of you must be knowing. This is a renquail, and Pune is famous for this. Now the season has started. Today we had a very heavy rains here. So this renquail, everybody gets it on a stone. So normally it's a dry background. Uh, it is standing on the stone. It is uh, make singing. So everybody get those kind of shots. But for this bird, I opened my car's half door and waiting. Was rested my camera on the glass, and I was waiting for this bird to walk to the flower side. So the moment it walked, I started shooting. So I was waiting for this kind of frame because I wanted some unique frame. This is again a unique one. This is known as a collared archery. So they are very uh, kind of a restless bird. They keep on moving, and four of them they came on the perch where actually we were trying to shoot hummingbirds. So nearby tree they came and they were looking for the banana. So I got this unique shot because I wanted all of them in focus. All of them, their eyes are visible, and they're very kind of comic movements. So I got some 8-10 frames, good frames of these birds. These are known as a Bhutan laughing thrush. Very interesting bird. So everybody will get a single bird, single perch. So this pair actually showed up and they were playing around. So I was waiting for the male bird to come forward and sit on this perch. So it came, sat, though it was from the back side, I was waiting, and suddenly the pair came up on the same branch, and I could get a good shot. Must be f9, but ISO must be 800. But you can see that the background is very clean. Again, if you are going to look for unique frames, this is a frame taken at Bhutan, Tharpling Monastery, very high, 11,000 feet height. And this place is very famous for monals, Himalayan monals. You can see them in 3 feet, 4 feet of kind of distance. So the snow pigeon, I got some shots on some wooden log, on the roof. So it was actually lifer for me, so I shot them. Then it was playing around this tree, which is full of snow. So I was waiting. I thought it will come down to this tree, and it came for a few moments and then flew down to the hillside. So I got this shot. So sometimes people say, "Why you shot it? The bird is not even visible." I said, "That's what I wanted." So the snow, the snow-colored pigeon, and the snow pigeon. So it's a worth. It's actually proving its name worth over there. Again, try to see the change the perspective. What everybody sees and what you see, because these birds are very acrobat. They keep on moving on the branches. So I was waiting for this to do the upside down Shirshasana. So I got it. Because when your viewers are going to see, they can see that some different frame than the others one. This is again a Talamanca hummingbird. Very few times they will sit on a perch, sort of in resting conditions. Otherwise, they are flying with high speed. So this hummingbird came, they are sitting on one flower pit, and it was trying to get the nectar from the other. So for a moment, it had taken the nectar. It is eating the nectar, and during that few seconds, I could get this frame. So I wanted that bird's colors and the stark difference of the flowers. This is again another unique frame which is taken Tharpling Monastery. These are the female monarchs, and they came so close to me that I removed my 2x TC from the body, and this was shot at 300 f 2.8, but again f11, and it was snowing heavily. it is very tough to photograph at that height because you are every time you have to remove your hand gloves to shoot them, and by that time you start shooting, your fingers getting numb. So again, put the hand gloves. Then we found out some another solution, but that is not a good solution all the time. We cut the hand gloves top portion to operate, but it actually creates the temperature difference, and if you are operating for a long time, then it's a little dangerous. It can cause snow white. Then again, this is taken at Lonavala near Pune. What is unique in this? Do you find anything?
Background color, sir.
It's
Okay.
broken beak.
It's a
And the
broken
beak.
beak. It's a broken beak. From my vehicle, nobody was ready to go down and shoot this bird. Everybody said, "क्या सुधीर photo निकालता है? It's the same roller." I said, "No, I will show you the frame. Let me get down." So I got down, sat on the floor, and not actually sleeping, on my knees, and I saw that there is a dry grass and again the flowers behind, and I wanted that bird to turn so that its broken beak is seen. When I shot this and put it on Facebook and Instagram, then everybody started running to see this bird at Lonavala, and then many people got this frame. But this is what you have to see about is unique. Again, this is a unique frame. People know about it. Amur birds, Amur falcons visited Lonavala, and they were there for a long time. But this is again a unique frame. The male is looking to upwards for female. So female is flying top, and I saw to that I could get this frame F8 and ISO 500, but because the light was good, both birds are sharp. So this frame is very unique because everybody will put Amur bird on the Instagram and the Facebook. So my frame should be little bit unique than the others. So this was one of them. Again, very interesting perspective. This is a yellow-rumped honeyguide, a rare bird, actually not easily to get it. Very few species left, but this was at 70 to 80 feet height on a cliff where this honeycomb was there, and this bird used to come and sit there and take the honey and go back. So I wanted this wider. I don't wanted this. I never thought that this bird should be sharp. I wanted the whole honeycomb structure and the bird sitting on that. And for that purpose, I removed the TC and took this picture. Very tough. It was very height on the cliff. This is again taken in Bhutan on the highway. And this is my favorite frame. 20 minutes I was almost sleeping on the snow to get this bird. This is taken at the Tharpling Monastery, and I knew that this bird was on the right side of the cliff, and some or the other time it will fly. So I removed my gloves as almost sleeping on the ice, holding my 300 f2.8. I removed the 2xcc, and I kept the ISO high because I wanted this bird in the frame. So you can see the window is very small. I could get only 3 frames. So I was waiting for this. My friend was saying, "Are you mad? Why you are sleeping on the snow? Leave that bird. Sometime other day you will get." I said, "No, I missed 3 flights till now. And this time before I leave Bhutan, I want it." And luckily, somebody walked from the other side, and this monal flew from the cliff and came in front of me and I got the shots. So I think this was my last slide. Thank you. I hope it
now,
was interesting for you.
Very interesting.
Very,
Dr.
very
Sudhir.
interesting, sir.
I know it was amazing birds.
Same, sir.
Yeah.
So thank you. Any questions? Anything somebody want to ask?